In this video, we'll be looking at the PromisePay widget, and in particular, a live demo that you can actually play with. Most of my videos so far have been about the API, which is where most of the technical questions come from, but the widget is a very important offering that PromisePay has for customers who need to get started with accepting payments as soon as possible. What the widget is, and you'll see this in a second, is a JavaScript element that can be added into a page, and with just that inclusion and a teeny bit of configuration on the back end, you can get started with facilitating transactions. To get to the demo, you can go to demo.promisepay.com/demo, and the username and password are PromisePay, and the password is demodemo, one word. And I'll put that in the description as well. So click on login. What you will see here is actually it's sort of an oddly set up page, because you're seeing the transaction from the buyer and seller in line with each other. But know that this one is the seller and this one is the buyer, and we're actually going to look at the larger version so that you can see the whole process. So this is from the seller's perspective. This is from the buyer's perspective. Say some business has been transacted between these two individuals, Sally Seller and Bobby Buyer, and the seller would like to request a payment. This pop-up comes in here, and you can select bank account information or PayPal for the funds that the seller will receive. And in this case, we'll do a PayPal payout. They'll enter in their phone number, and for the purposes of the demo, it's grayed out, and the code is 123456. So now it'll say a payment has been requested. Now going down to the buyer's perspective, it says Sally Seller has requested a payment, and so the buyer can go ahead and pay now. I already have some dummy information filled in, and you can edit it as well. The same of course applies to the 6-digit PIN and the grayed out phone number. It's just 123456. But in your live app, that functionality will be acting as is expected. So the buyer can fill in their information and the 6-digit PIN and make payment. And if you scroll back up to the seller's perspective, you'll see that the transaction is completed, and now PromisePay is off to verify the seller's identity to ensure that the transaction is compliant with AML and KYC requirements. That's the whole thing. And you can definitely play with this as much as you'd like to try various flows. There's also a flow for Escrow, which has a couple more steps associated with it, namely that money gets put into the PromisePay vault, and then once the buyer has satisfactorily received the item that they purchased or the service that they purchased, they have the option to then release the payment. And the same also goes for partial release, and this is often used in cases where the seller or the service provider requires some of the funds to be released to them before the service is finished. Perhaps like if an artist needs to buy paint for a piece that they've been commissioned to make for a client. So partial release allows buyers and sellers to have money in escrow and to release some at any time, and then release the rest when the product or service has been satisfactorily delivered. So that's all there is for the payment widget. I will put a bunch of links in the description below for documentation and the CDN that you can use to embed the modal. And as always, if you have any questions, please direct them to developers@promisepay.com, and I'll get back to you as soon as we can. See you in the next video.